Hello, and welcome to episode 87 of Flix and a Six. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo, with me, forever and always, the man, the myth, Dr. Mgiggity Giggity Baba, Alessandro Bales. Say hello, Al.
Doesn't that thing ever set?
On this week's episode, another trailer roundup, post-endgame nerves, and other news and nuggets, all before diving into our flick of the week, Bedazzled. But first, Al, what are we drinking?
We're drinking Ninkasi Brewing Company's Dawn of the Red IPA. This is 7% alcohol by volume. It's got a little blurb on the back. Dawn of the Red India Pale Ale. Bursting with tropical notes, this red IPA captures the bright complexity of El Dorado and Mosaic hops. An assertive hop presence is carried by a subtle caramel backbone, unearthing a beer that is flavorful and juicy.
Flavorful and juicy. I'm all for it.
Cheers.
Cheers, sir. Ooh. This new cheers method.
Synchronicity there was perfect.
So, that's very tasty.
It's a pungent aroma. Stings the nostrils.
Stings the nostrils.
Sorry, but
I'm gonna be honest with you, that smells like pure gasoline.
No, this smells much better than gasoline. But the funny thing is, we were doing the whole sound test, like unique New York How Now Brown Cow, before we got on the air. So it's perfect that we keep the Anchorman thing going on.
The ostrich has oddly shaped feet.
The
Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
This is a tasty beer.
This is really good.
This is, has it been a while since we've done an IPA? I feel like we've done some funky ones. We had a couple of pumpkins in there. We had the cream stout last week with
the last couple of weeks have been a whirlwind.
We did two stouts back to back. We did cream stout and we did the Beelzebub, the Alchemist Imperial Stout. And
then we did the Cricket Hill Pumpkin the week before, I think. So this is a nice change of pace. This is it's weird. Bear with me here. I would describe the visual of this beer as thick, but it doesn't feel thick. And yours looks completely different than mine.
Are you sure you grabbed the right beer?
Dawn of the Red, correct?
Yeah. Yours looks like creamy. Mine is just hazy, like a typical hazy IPA.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you. Mine's delicious, and I'm not giving it up.
Oh yeah, no, it's very tasty. It's funny because you asked me a couple weeks ago about red ales. And red IPAs are kind of loosely cousins, but not exactly the same thing because the hop content is pretty aggressive in this one, but in a good way. I'm a pretty big fan. It's 66 IBUs, but it's got a good balance of both the fruitiness and the bitterness and just a bit of floral, but it doesn't feel like I'm smelling grass clippings or anything.
I really like the bitterness on this one because it reminds me of. Are you a fan of Negronis?
I might have had one. Is that the one with Campari and is it whiskey too, or is it just those two things?
Gin.
Gin. That's what it is. Yeah.
And I've also made
those
one
are super
mezcal,
bitter,
which is really good.
Those are super bitter, right? Because I've never had Aperol, but I know that Campari is bitter and gin is bitter typically.
It's very bitter, but I like the bitterness, and similar here, there's the aftertaste is what's super bitter on this one, but I'm enjoying it a lot, and it's reminding me of that cocktail, and I like it a lot.
What I will say about it is it is an assertive hop presence carried by a subtle caramel backbone, unearthing a beer that is flavorful and juicy.
Honestly, so I looked away. I wasn't looking at Aldo in this, and I really thought you were being genuine. And then once your reading cadence started to kick in, I looked up from my glass and I saw you with the bottle not 2 inches from your face.
Oh yeah, I did that on purpose. It's been a while since I've done that, where I've read a description and done it very obviously, like I'm reading but acting like it's my own. It makes me laugh. I hope it makes you guys laugh too.
I appreciate it. This one's gonna get a thumb up for me.
Not 2 thumbs. This would get at least 1.5 for me if I were to do it on the thumb scale.
Well, there are no halves, as you know. So 1 thumb.
I don't know. I know a person who only has half a thumb.
I have to. Is it this guy? Is it?
No.
This guy, for those of you who can't see, which is everyone, I'm doing that thumb separation thing that old dads do.
Yes, fantastic.
That's the move. No, it's gonna get a single thumb up because the 2 thumbs are reserved. The 2 thumb is reserved for a heady topper, a focal banger, Low visibility. Another one of my favorites.
You really butchered that because I thought you said a loaf of something. I was
no,
like, a loaf of what now?
I've been stumbling over my words all day. I think something might be crossed up in my brain. Just keep an eye out for me. If they start to droop. You're going to have to make a call.
You're still in that post-Endgame hangover.
Speaking of which, man, I saw that movie again, and it is just as good, if not better, the second time.
Well, now you have the opportunity to look for the things you think you might have missed.
100%. I also have the benefit of knowing what things are going to go down. So I'm definitely not going to cry this time.
Yeah, you did.
Right? No, yeah, I absolutely did. Got real teary-eyed. But man, do I love that movie.
Yeah, no, it was very good. It's an experience.
Now, I don't want to dive too far into our news and nuggets just yet, because there is one thing I wanted to mention. You rushed right past it. You rushed right past the fact that this was a red IPA, and we were talking about reds recently, because I was inquiring for a good set of red ales for my brother-in-law. Big fan of them. And I figured, what better way to get him a solid red than to commission one from Al's Ales. So I'm getting the next batch, and I'm actually really excited about it. I'm excited to be a customer of Al.
You sure are.
And I know how good your red is, so I'm excited.
Yeah,
I can't wait. So that's what are we looking at for that one? That's going to be like a month.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I won't be able to get it to you by the time I see you next.
That's fine.
But
that's fine.
The next time after that, for sure.
We have to make a point of seeing each other. It's great. It's great.
I guess so.
It all works out for the better. That being said,
we have John Wick coming out soon.
That's true. If you want to commission something, work on a collaboration with Al, he's open to it. Am I right?
I am open to it. Just
reach out.
Slide in these DMs. We have
in those DMs.
We have multiple Twitter accounts. We have the Flix and a 6 email. It was a Flix and a 6 at Gmail. We have the Spinchun at Gmail. We have the Spinchun on Twitter.
Yeah, well, there's all sorts of stuff. Really, if you want to reach out to Flix and a 6, your best bet is flixandasix@spinchun.com. You can also reach either one of us.
Sorry, I forgot you changed it over.
Yeah.
Ignore those Gmails that I said. We are now at flixandasix@spinchun.com, right?
You could also hit us up on Twitter. I'm at AEJ Costanzo. And we have at the Spinchun, and we have at Alessandro B 1187. I remembered it this time.
Yes,
feel good about
Eventually,
that one.
It just starts to roll off the tongue.
It does. So anyway, commission more, because this really just it benefits me mostly, because what happens is Al will make the beer, he will make enough to fulfill your order, and more, and then I'll get those more. Right, exactly, and that's really what I'm looking for.
Yes, of course,
is for your ideas in my beer.
And if you like our opinions on beer, I think we mentioned it on the show, because it's only been active for a couple of weeks and our schedule's been off, and the last two have been special episodes with special guests. We have an official Untapped. You can find us.
It's about damn time.
Flix and a 6, or I guess it's FLI 6. Sorry, it's FLI 6 on Untapped. Come be our friend. All of our beers that we've ever done on the show, minus the Al's Ales, are all on there, so you can find everything we've drank. I went back and I had forgotten about some of the beers we had, and it was a fun little thing. And I left some fun little comments in our reviews of a handful of the beers. It's definitely not all of them. I don't even know if it's a quarter of them.
Yeah,
it was probably like 10 of the 85. But
so if I remember correctly, it's a 5-star system.
It is a 5-star with quarter stars.
Okay, so I will start to log the beers as we drink them for myself on my personal account, and the stars, there will be no quarter stars. I will be rating full stars or no, and it will be on my thumb scale, so you can transpose that as I did.
I didn't realize you had an account as well, so you'll have to hook up with the.
Yeah, I'll make that happen. It's not on my phone. It was on my last phone. I haven't brought it back to life in a while, so I'll make that happen.
Makes sense.
Specifically for full point ratings being a thing that I'm advocating for going forward. You can do what you want. You can rate however you want. Me personally,
well, I tried to do it
in a world with so much choice. I'm just trying to get rid of those half choices.
Sure. For me, whichever full or partial stars, however you want to do it. I was trying to do it as best I could remember, and a couple of them I had to listen to the first couple of minutes of the episode to find a consensus ranking between the two of us.
Oh, okay.
And where I couldn't remember what I or you felt about it, I just defaulted to whoever's I could vaguely remember.
It's like, I could see that with the half thumb coming in there. I could also see one where, like, you love it and I hate it, and it's like, take my strong hand. Like, that could be one of the ratings. This is exciting. I like this one.
Yeah, this is a good beer.
The other thumb is creeping up, but it's not going to get there. So, one thumb up for this one. I'm going to take us on a little detour before we get into our news and nuggets.
Wait, this wasn't a detour?
No, this is another one. We were still talking about beer and movies-ish, so it was fine.
We're going to get lost deep in the woods.
We're getting deep. This one, I was a little late to recording because I was trying to book an Airbnb for a quick trip that we're doing.
Which I got to kind of be a part of.
Yeah, I accidentally sent the wrong message, but that's fine. So I was looking at these, the pictures for some of these places, and they're a good handful of them were great. They looked awesome. One of them is really bubbling to the top, though, and that's because in the background of one of the pictures, the TV is on, and it's Tobias.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was like porn or something like
in
that.
Arrested Development, and I feel like I'll just jive with these people, so maybe we'll make that happen.
How bad can they be if they like Arrested Development, right?
Well, I've never actually had a good experience with Airbnb, so I'm really hoping that this will be the one.
What, you mean a cabin in the middle of nowhere with bad cell phone service that has Nazi stuff all over the place? That's not a good experience?
That was Airbnb?
That was an Airbnb, yeah.
So, some might argue that was the best experience.
The funny thing is, I hadn't thought about it in a while, and it came up apropos of nothing yesterday.
I don't think I've ever had so much fun and been so uncomfortable in the same breath.
Well, the best part was that there was a lot of uncomfortability at the beginning.
Yeah.
And the alcohol eventually suppressed it, which I guess is kind of what alcohol does.
I mean, I guess the fact that there was like 9 of us and a gun cabinet, I felt pretty safe.
I didn't, because the guns were locked to us, but they were accessible to the people who might wish to do us harm.
Were they locked to us? I don't think a single pane of glass is locked.
Namely, locked. No, sorry, when I say the people who want to do us harm, namely the Nazis, the aforementioned Nazis.
Right.
And when I say that, I mean it literally. I mean, there was actual swastikas in a chest in a closet in an Airbnb that we stayed at.
It was quite the journey. I would say we should post the pictures that we took from that place, but I don't want to get flagged.
No,
not going to do that.
No.
But yeah, it was hysterical and terrifying all at the same time. We had fun.
The best part about it was me sending it to the person who booked it for us, and them asking me why I was sending them Nazi paraphernalia. I said, because that's what I found at the fucking place you booked for us.
Yes, you did this to me.
Exactly. That's like almost exactly what I said, word for word.
All right, let's get into some news and nuggets. I have here the trailer roundup because there's a handful that we need to discuss since we've last really spoken.
There's really only one we need to discuss.
There's one that we will push towards the end. The first one that we're going to discuss
I don't think we'll get through them if we start with it.
No, we won't. We might end up... We might just end the show on it. The first trailer I want to discuss is Godzilla.
Okay.
When we saw Endgame...
It wasn't even a trailer. It was a sneak peek extended look.
Yeah, it was about 30 minutes. It was a good quarter of the movie. It was a lot. There was a lot going on in that extended look trailer for Godzilla. That movie doesn't look good to me. That movie looks really bad to me.
Oh,
what are your thoughts?
Well, I liked Kong, Skull Island.
Yeah.
And you kind of liked Godzilla. I never technically saw it.
Yep.
So and you liked Kong as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Kong.
So I just assumed we were in for this movie.
Yeah, I did too until I saw that.
The before that, or even kind of with that, the sensibility seemed very much aligned with the Godzilla movie.
Mm-hmm.
Both like thematically and even especially the cinematography and everything.
It just, I was bored to tears during that.
Well, there's also, I mean, there's a lot of like weightlifting on the perspective of the viewer because you're getting dropped right into the center of this, and there's a lot going on that there's no way you can really process it all because it's very obviously heavy into the story at that point.
Yeah.
So, like, I know the first minute or two, I was like just trying to get my sea legs on what was going on. But I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It was certainly a spectacle. It looked cool as shit on IMAX.
It looked cool on IMAX. It was too long. It was just. I don't know what it was. It wasn't like overly engaging. It looked cool. Like the fights look like they'll probably be pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Graphically, it looks pretty good. From what we saw, that might not hold up in the full-length movie. You never know. Those things can be hit or miss.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but I don't know. Overall, it just was like a dragging sneak peek.
Well, I think for one thing, you were probably disillusioned to it a bit because you just wanted the movie to start at that point.
That's fair.
Close.
We were hovering around 3 days in those chairs, right, when that started.
It felt like it.
I know that trailers and previews are long. I actually, as you know, we've talked about this on the show before. I enjoy it. I love trailers. I like getting there early. That was egregious.
Well, the thing is, I kind of take for granted how long they are because I don't go to AMC or very often, or the Cinemark that you go to very often. So you're always complaining about trailers. For me, the theater I go to, it's typically 3 trailers and you're done. You're in. Your movie's going. Like, we're talking 5 minutes and it's time. It's noticeable when it's 20 minutes. I'm grateful that it's not always 20 minutes.
Right. Well,
but I can put up with it that one time, knowing that the next time I go, it's not going to be that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But what's funny, though, is going in, when I looked at the runtime of the movie and looked at the schedule and saw that the movie was starting every 20 to 30 minutes, I was like, oh, maybe they're going to go in a different direction and the movie's just going to start. Nope. No. We sat 30, maybe 40 minutes before the movie started. It was long.
I will say I don't have a strong feeling, plus or minus, about that sneak peek because I think I was just able to notice how odd of a situation that we were in, and furthermore, the fact that that scene is clearly at the apex of building quite a bit of tension. And we haven't earned that tension ourselves because we're getting thrown right into it. So it's not going to have that desired effect and that connection point to you. So it's being sold to you on the spectacle, on the merits of the spectacle itself.
Sure.
So I think that I would caution you not to read too much into it one way or the other. Our specific experience that watching at that time.
Either way, we're going to see it, and I know Chris and James are going to want to see it. And they're super into that stuff. So, what this has effectively done is lowered the bar for me.
Yeah, which maybe is
probably a good thing. Yeah, I think that'll end up working out in my favor. Hopefully, was that now? Remind me. The seeing the new Godzilla movie before Endgame, was that before or after the 2 trailers for the new X-Men movie?
That was really confusing.
So we got one, which was, if you watch it and pay close enough attention, it's mostly clips from previous movies, and at the end of it, they just tell you that you could buy all the previous movies, which is fine. But then immediately after, they did the Dark Phoenix. Is it Dark Phoenix? Is that the name of the movie?
Yes.
So we get the second version of the trailer to follow, and Kim, as soon as it started, and I don't know if you heard this, but Kim turned to me and she goes, "What's happening now?"
I didn't hear it, but it's only because I heard it inside my own head as I was thinking it.
Right. It's this is the same movie that we're seeing a trailer for, right? It's like as if this stretch of time isn't long enough. You're going at it again? Well,
the first 3 seconds of both trailers was like the same. So I thought it was a glitch and it was just going to run back the exact same thing. And no, it was a completely separate trailer that had like 10% of it was overlapping footage. But ultimately, I was just like...
I should have just turned to you and said, they're here. Like, just glitch in the Matrix. Yeah, what do you think about that movie? Are you in?
We talked about it a few weeks ago that I like the second.
Oh, but was that the trailer?
Was the one because you? It sounds like you hadn't seen that one.
I had not. No, that was the first.
And I remember you were pretty skeptical about the trailer, and I said, "No, check out the full trailer. I think you might be more interested." That was the one, the second one. Although it sounds like you may have been turned off to watching a second trailer about it.
Yeah, at that point I was done. I don't know. I'm not. I mean, I'm obviously going to see it. I've seen all of them. I generally enjoyed all the X-Men movies I've seen.
Yeah, I still haven't got around to seeing Apocalypse, but other than that, I've seen all of them. it was funny because I had very little desire to see First Class because I was just frustrated with what X-Men was doing. And looking back at it, even though that was a good movie, I'm still frustrated by what they did with it. But I genuinely liked First Class. It was a good movie. And for some reason, I just didn't get to see Days of Future Past until quite some time after it came out. Okay. And I liked a lot of it, but that one is definitely one that you could have tightened. But there was a lot of good in it, even though some of it was not so great. And then for whatever reason, just had zero interest in Apocalypse.
Yeah. It's okay. It's just another X-Men movie. It's fine. And a lot of people were a little tough on it, but the reviews for Apocalypse were not very good. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like offended by it like some of these other people are when they talk about it. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. We're obviously, we're gonna see it. We'll do a show on it. But.
It'll probably depend on when it comes out. If it comes out in a dead zone, we'll probably go see it. If it's not, it might sit in the back burner for a little while. Like we're doing, we're doing sandwiches around Endgame. We're doing Mallrats and Bedazzled, movies from 1995 and 2000. It's just a little bit of a dead zone /
very.
We needed
much
something
from 2000.
Yeah. Oh, so that was one of my notes. This movie is 2000 as fuck.
Yeah, it's totally fair.
But like
more on that later.
It's gonna start picking up soon. We got John Wick coming out soon. There's a few other things that we've teased a few weeks ago when we were looking ahead at the schedule. So I'm forgetting them now. It's tough to remember week to week.
For sure. Yeah. So there's that. There's we did that trailer. Okay. Man, the first time that there was just some real raw emotion when we went to go see Endgame was that Lion King trailer. I am all in on that trailer. Solid trailer. That was really well done. That's peak trailer. Like that was amazing.
I mean, there's one thing I feel pretty confident in. It's that Disney it has perfected the science of a lot of things in the making of movies, and one of those things is making trailers. Because like basically all of the Marvel trailers, the Star Wars trailers are perfection. Yep. That was also incredible. Like they crush trailers. Like they've gotten the making of a movie down to a science where I'm genuinely surprised when anything they make is an outright miss. In a lot of cases, it makes it first. There's enough of a guideline that maybe they can't truly transcend the medium, right, and become a truly excellent movie, but it's assuring a certain level of quality regardless, and I for one appreciate that to a certain extent.
Yeah, like let's break this down for a minute though. With the Lion King trailer, it starts off perfect pace, very slow, steady rise. That's basically this whole trailer, and it hit a lot of the scenes you remember. Yeah. Exactly, it really pulls on the nostalgia strings, and like all of the things that you remember, all the things you're excited about, and then I think the key ingredient here is getting James Earl Jones to still do Mufasa to really bring it home. And the whump as it goes to black at the end and tells you like when it's coming out. And then the pause. Now this is where Disney comes in strong. The pause.
And then
then there's a pause. Camera pops back in at the grass level as it's pulling up and two characters are starting to waddle onto screen. And you start to hear, and I just like, and they do get into that, but they cut it out right as I cut you out.
Yep.
And that right there, that is a crescendo with an abrupt stop, and it was beautiful. And I was just like, I'm very excited. I don't know how can you make me this excited when I'm already this excited for the next thing that we're about to watch.
Whenever I reach that sort of situation, I always think of one of my favorite scenes from Archer when they're talking. I won't say what they were talking about, but someone's describing something to Dr. Krieger, and he goes, Stop. I can only get so erect.
Maybe don't say that in regards to The Lion King. Moving on to
I will say in regards to excitement for trailers and content, though.
Fair enough. Well, if you want me to fix that for you, shall we talk about that other trailer?
That will get rid of my entertainment erection, you're correct.
So the Sonic trailer's out. That's a thing that exists.
It's a thing that I cannot scrub from my brain.
I as with most things, I'm trying to find the good in it. The good in it is that it reminds me of peak Jim Carrey.
I was gonna say the good in it is that Jim Carrey looked pretty good because he was looking a little rough recently.
Yeah, he looks good in it. He looks even better towards the end when they tried to do the Disney cut and then come back real quick for a split second. Which it was already too late at that point. Once you gave me Sonic teeth, it was horrible.
Those teeth took over the internet. More horrifying even than Ben Affleck's baby teeth.
Yeah.
Like, they're
oh my
bad.
God, baby teeth.
And if you do not know the baby teeth thing, go back to our previous... Wait, which episode was that in? Fuck. I should be able to tell them that so they can find it because... You know what? Doesn't matter. Go find the article on The Ringer. Look up Ben Affleck's baby teeth.
It'll show up right away.
Oh my God.
It's so good. But this trailer... we get really goofy Jim Carrey, which it was exciting to see him back in that zone.
It was a bit too much.
It wasn't. It was pretty much what he used to do.
Well, the thing is, he wasn't too much. The writing
is too much.
Is horrendous.
Absolutely, but his delivery. If you take the words out of it and you just let him do his thing, because with Jim Carrey, it's all about that physical acting, and man. I don't know what it is. He could just be there not doing anything, and if I watched for 30 seconds, I would probably burst out laughing just because I find him to be so funny. I love him so much, and I know that he can be polarizing for people. There are people that love him, and there are people that hate him. I adore him, and seeing him as Robotnik doesn't make any sense at all until the final scene with
the big mustache.
With the giant mustache, and he's bald.
Mm-hmm.
Even so, if they can make him gigantic at that, also that might drive it home. But it's just so everything about it is you can't look at any scene and not ask why. Why are we doing this?
A lot of it's bad, and like Ben Schwartz has done some good like voice work. Like he's good, although he's basically playing a more polished version of John Ralphio in when he's in BoJack Horseman. But he's done some good voice work, and him in the Sonic role wasn't working for me. The Sonic James Marsden thing wasn't working for me. For fuck's sake, the teeth and just the general look wasn't working for me.
There's so many good memes. That's the great memes tearing it apart. Those worked for me.
Well, that was the only positive to it. That's your silver lining, is that we were graced with 36 hours of wonderful, wonderful, horrible memes. Like the one where people were complaining about the teeth, so someone said, I fixed the teeth, and they just took out the eyes and put more of his mouth in his teeth.
Horrible.
Or in his eyes, and I will never unsee it.
No,
I want them to I want them to scoop my eyes out so I can see it.
It was very Pan's Labyrinth. It wasn't good. The other one that really got me, I think you sent this one to me. It was just the kid from Jumanji when he's the monkey.
Yeah, I think I did see that.
It's perfect. It's like, oh yeah, no, they just made him blue.
Yeah.
It's the same.
They made him blue and they gave him the pointy nose. That was the only difference.
Yeah, and it's probably with the same technology.
Yeah.
And effects.
Dug it up from 1994.
It was a little rough. That movie looks real bad.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, that's going to be the train wreck that we're not going to be able to look away from. We're going to have to see it.
The problem is,
I have to know.
While I was watching the trailer, I had a thought, and I realized that I wasn't alone, because about 2 hours later, I finally saw an article doing a better job of putting the words together than I was able to. But everything that my skepticism of the Pikachu movie did, like the trailer undid all that skepticism. This doubled down on it. When I heard that Sonic was a movie, I saw just the still image when it came out, like in the fall. I was like, why the fuck is this a thing? Just the same way I did with the Detective Pikachu thing. But the problem is, when I saw this trailer, it made me viscerally angry, because it's everything I feared and worse.
Yeah, it's so stupid. I don't know what my problem is, but I really want to like everything. So as I was watching the trailer,
I find that I do that too. Like I've been having some conversation with people recently, especially with like the whole Game of Thrones thing this week, where a lot of people are irritated with it, and I didn't love it either. But especially if it's a going concern like that, an ongoing like medium of something I enjoy. Once I've gotten over my irritation, I try and process and at least understand why choices like that were made. so that I can continue enjoying the thing that I love. I'm not going to let it sour me like that if I can understand, if I can get to a point of understanding why they made the choice, even if I ultimately disagree and reject it, right? And I can't get there with this. I really can't.
No, I can't either. But while I was watching it, I was trying to smile through it. I was like, it's gonna get good. It's not gonna get good. This was 10 seconds in. It's not gonna get good, but it might get okay. It's
Spoiler
gonna get
alert,
okay.
It didn't.
Right, and then it didn't get okay, and it got worse. I was like, shucks. And in that moment, I felt like I was trying to be nice, but I was just cork, and I was just like, I just couldn't do it. It was brutal, but yeah, we'll probably see that, and I can't imagine we will do anything but tear it to shreds. But what if somehow it's amazing?
I just don't see it.
You know what it did? I think this is maybe what they were trying to go for. It turned, in that moment, when that trailer ended, it turns the Super Mario Brothers movie into a fantastic film. I think that's what it did. I think maybe that was the goal.
I don't know if anything can do that. No, I don't think anything can do that.
Years later, the people that made Super Mario Brothers, the movie, are thinking, man, we're never going to live that one down. And then this trailer dropped, and they went, I think we're good. We're in the clear.
The funny thing is, just like the Nazi Airbnb, I also was just talking about that movie a couple of days ago, and I can't even remember exactly what... I remember like the gist of how we got there, and it was something to do with someone looking like something.
Okay.
And I was like... The comparison I made was like... Involved the fact that like Bob Hoskins... Like, someone looked more like Mario than Bob Hoskins did, but he was at least a lot closer than John Leguizamo was to looking like Luigi.
Oh man, that movie is definitely a guilty pleasure of mine.
Now, that's one that we can do somewhere. We have not kept up our end of the bargain of doing the intentionally bad movies. We're getting close to the 6-month anniversary of the Untitled Holiday episode that we did. If you got some time, guys, that's not a very long episode. You should listen to the Untitled Holiday episode, which I will not tell you what it was about, even though I think we've mentioned it once in the past.
Listen to me fall apart.
Yeah, you were.
That movie broke me.
You were shaken to the core.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
It wasn't.
There was numerous times where I just looked directly at you and said, "Why?"
I think the only reason I'm alive today is because you realized that if you attempted to kill me with your rage, it probably wouldn't have been enough.
No, I think it was more so that if I did that, the movie would probably have shown up as evidence in the court trial, and I don't think I'd be able to handle it. So I figured, let's just get through it, and we'll be okay. Yeah, so Sonic looks like shit. Moving on. Excuse me. There's 2 other notes that I have here. One, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this.
Because I have a couple of very short nuggets as well.
You know what? Why don't you take one away?
I am going to go with... I saw something the other day. It was a follow-up to, kind of the slight loosening of the endgame spoiler thing, the don't spoil the endgame. It's slowly loosening up now online, so be careful. But someone posted something on Twitter, and it's like, Phase 4 looks fucking awesome. And it was a picture of... It was a black background with a bunch of logos of different movies. And I was like, oh, that looks really fucking cool. And I'm looking at it, and there's like, kind of like the roadmap of what comes next. And so it's like, it was I'm going to keep calling it Homecoming. Sorry, Far From Home,
Yep, it's okay. We'll all do that forever.
Captain Marvel 2, Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2, The Eternal, Shang-Chi, like, bang, 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 going through it. I'm looking.
Which one is that? Is that the new one? Bing Bang?
That was the one we talked about.
Sorry,
we talked about it
joke.
a few weeks ago. And anyway, so I'm looking through this whole thing, Guardians 3, all this stuff, and I'm like, something about this doesn't look right. And I looked online, and there's not been any official release, because that's how it was like couched, as this is the official like roadmap now that like we're far enough out from Endgame. Unfortunately, they have not released that thing yet. There's a bunch of people mocking up a bunch of things. I think more or less good-naturedly, just for some conversation and attention. Just be wary. There is no official Phase 4 roadmap yet with, like, other than those, like, the only ones that they've officially announced are Guardians 3, Shang-Chi, the Eternals, and I think we'll get an official announcement of a couple of other ones that we've mentioned in the past, like Doctor Strange 2 and stuff like that, like, that they've been holding off on announcing.
Sure, which makes
Captain
sense.
Marvel 2, you know.
I was just reading something from James Gunn, and it was talking about some concept, maybe not the real one or where it'll go, but an idea of the third Guardians movie being an end to like a close on the original core group.
That makes sense.
Which is fine. And it could be fun in this season of finales that we're in right now. I'd be down with that. I'm excited for that. That'll be great. Don't care. They could take their sweet time with it. I'm set right now, and I'm getting a Spider-Man movie. Like, that's ridiculous to me. Like, it's unbelievable. This year is just for me. I don't even understand. It's too big. It's too big. All the movies can't even handle it. I had one thing on here from, it actually kind of links back to what you were saying earlier. I was curious if there was any topics on the Battle for Winterfell that you wanted to talk about.
Oh yeah, I had that too. I wasn't sure if you're going to want to get into it fully.
Yeah, we can get into it quick, like short. It doesn't have to be long.
Yeah, well, if that's even possible. But I got. Oh, hey, look at that! Just while we were talking about it, the one of the trailers for the King of the Monsters, Godzilla, just came up on the TV. It's a much shorter trailer.
It's probably a good one.
I wanted to know what your thoughts were just on how you experienced the episode. Let's not get into spoilers with it because
sure.
I don't know who has and hasn't seen it yet. We did
a
more spoiler in-depth conversation at the beginning of this week's episode of the Spin Tune Sports Show.
Yep.
If you guys are interested, you can flip over to that. The first 15 minutes of that episode, we did a full spoilers part of that. So
yeah. I can start here. So again, no spoilers. We all know what the episode is. It's supposed to be a big battle. It's supposed to be, from what I recall from what they said, the biggest battle committed to film.
Yes.
I call BS on that. I don't really understand what qualifies it. I don't think that that's the case.
I think it was just the runtime of the battle.
That's fine. It seems more like a technicality than anything.
Maybe, but the runtime unbroken of the battle, I think, is the longest one. It's longer than the one opening Saving Private Ryan. It's longer than the Battle of Helm's Deep. It's longer than the one in was that Ben Affleck Pearl Harbor?
Wow.
I found it quick enough that you didn't have to call me on it. But yeah, no, I think it was the whole point of it being an unbroken battle sequence.
Okay. Yeah.
Or
maybe
sort of
I'll call that there's a gray area there and how that's defined and what constitutes a break in the battle. But regardless,
I don't think that that horror sequence that put in the middle, that I don't think that's considered a break.
No. But regardless, that's fine. That's neither here nor there, and honestly, didn't really have that much of a problem with that. I like the tension building. I'm all for that. I'm a big fan of that. I like the story and plot points that they hit. I thought were fantastic. I thought the plot points and when the plot was moved was great. I actually really did enjoy that. Every decision that is made in the battle, I don't understand. So that was one of my flaws with it, where I just this just feels like they needed to do this so that it could be longer, because it didn't make any sense.
There was definitely some things that, both from a militaristic standpoint,
yes,
strategy, and from, like you said, there was definitely things that were done for plot reasons. I will say, this is the briefest, minorest of spoilers if you haven't seen it. The fact that Dany breaks from the plan 5 minutes into the plan frustrated me to no end.
Oh my god!
And that's all I'll say about it. So it's not an actual spoiler.
Yeah, that's fine. So that's one of the I think this is my biggest problem with
that. Was my biggest issue with that sort of thing.
With that though, there was this is the only time in recent memory of watching the show, and I'm sure there has been times before, maybe one or two things here and there that as they happen, but there were so many times while something was happening where I just went, in a non-unrealistic way, in the state of this world that we're living in, I said, why don't they just X?
Yeah.
Or why didn't they just Y? And that is an immersion breaker, and I can't stand that. If I have enough freedom to start to wonder about a different possibility and how you could do it and not be engaged, I think you're failing at telling this.
That's a smidge harsh. I think everyone kind of gets one.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Or
sure.
There's always going to be a moment where it's like, okay, they're doing that because this. And as long as you can get there and you know why and you get it, it's like, okay. But you really get one significant one of those, and they probably took too many liberties on that front.
Yeah, they had about 12 of them, and it was too much, and I couldn't really. I'm gonna be honest with you. As the show was going on, I was like, they've got. I was doing a reverse counter. I was like, oh wow, they've got 40 minutes to turn this around. Oh wow, they've got 30 minutes to make this episode good. Oh, okay, 20 minutes. Oof.
I will say and
then they did it. Sure.
The final sequence, starting with the music that cropped up as they started slow motioning it.
Things they're good at. Musical cues. Slow.
Did you experience that the same way I did? Because I was listening and I thought it was a orchestral cover of a song. It sounded familiar to me for some reason. And I was like, man, this is driving me nuts because I feel like it's something I've heard before and I don't know why. And the next morning I was watching a completely unrelated show and someone said the exact thing I said, and they're like, I had to pause and look it up, and no, it was an original. It was an original song. It was an original composition, is what I was trying to say, for the thing, and it was titled The Night King or something like that, or the Night King March or something like that. I forget what it was, but it was just so weird that it immediately pulled me into this place where I was like, man, I feel like I know this song and I don't. Which that sort of thing where it can bring you somewhere when you don't know something. That's where music can be transportive like that. I think that's a really good job of scoring what's going on. It was a perfect accompaniment to what was going on screen. Yeah,
it was the last 10-15 minutes. Great. Awesome. Honestly, the week before's episode was fantastic.
Yes. It was funny because in the moment I was kind of I liked a lot what happened, but I was a little disappointed. But thinking back on it, I was like, no, it was pitch perfect as the last breath before the plunge.
Yeah, the way that I had described it was if you had made the last episode an hour and a half or an hour 45 and let it play out the exact way that it did and then tightened this as a cap on that, that would have been probably the most tremendous episode.
It would have been too long.
I agree to disagree because I honestly this episode was too long. I don't think they could have done it. This episode was too long with too much garbage. So.
I don't think they would have been able to do it in an hour 45 though. That's the problem. Not without cutting some of what happened in the episode before, and it was perfect.
That's fair. I wouldn't want to cut anything out of that episode.
It was perfect because they gave everyone a send off so that you could justify why any of them would have died. You know what I mean? Yeah. Whereas no one there's a couple of people who screamed out to me on the screen is oh, they're gonna die, and some of them did and some of them didn't. Mm-hmm. So that's a good job of both foreshadowing and yet not screaming out loud to you, hey, this is who's gonna die.
Yeah, man, I'm just ready for the next week.
Yeah, well, this week is gonna be a deep breath episode because there's still 3 more episodes.
Yeah, no, this week will be but it'll probably be more story, which I'm, as you know, these days, it's all about the story for me. And then the following week's episode is usually where everything hits the fan. So we'll see what happens. But it's time. It's time to come to a close, and I'm okay with that.
I'm glad that you've been enjoying it overall more than it seemed like you were anticipating it before it came out. Because I won't say it seemed like you were down on it per se. It just didn't seem like you were really that excited.
Oh, the final season?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I wasn't not in. It was just I didn't mind waiting. It was just fine. When it gets here, it gets here. I'm not in a rush to see it. Whereas,
that's what I'm saying. Its anticipation didn't measure up on the upper tier for you the way it did for me. But it seems like it's been exceeding your expectations overall.
Yeah, well, yeah. When we came within a week of it starting, I was getting really excited. So that's good on them. But yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm also, like I said, the close of the episode was just tremendous.
I think we probably could come back and discuss this a little bit more next week, because there was some things in some conversations I've had with people who, like, I'm friends with a lot of people who are super fans of it, like I am. And while I will agree that I didn't necessarily love the way they went, kind of harkening back to our conversation about Sonic, I can understand why they made the choices they did, so I'm good with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So ultimately, it's just mildly tinged with disappointment, where overall I very much enjoyed the episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I understand. I've got one other thing. So you said you have another note or two, right?
I have one other note that we could discuss for a couple of minutes. It'll be depending on your interest level and how long it goes.
Okay. Well, then I'll just drop this quick tidbit. So last week I was listening to Podcast Unlocked. I'm not sure if anybody is a fan here of that.
That's one of the IGN ones?
It's the IGN Xbox podcast, and I adore the host on that. I think he does a fantastic job, and it's one of the, I don't have an Xbox anymore, but I still listen to that because I love that show. That one? Ryan McCaffrey.
Oh, okay.
And they were talking about people excitement swelling around Endgame, and one person, Brendan Tyrell, mentioned the Avengers theme song and how people know it, and that they had a little back and forth about, like, is that really that well known? And then he said some guy in the office was singing it, and I spit out my drink. And I thought it was very funny to me because of it was literally the day after we had recorded our thing. So I sent it to them with a trivia question in hopes that it would get read. I don't expect them to play or anything. I just want them to listen to it, because sometimes it's really fun to listen to podcasts, I find, because there so many folks I feel like do a very good job of making you feel like you're part of the community and part of the group.
Yeah,
and they do.
Those are my favorite sorts of shows to listen to, whether it be like a radio show or podcast. The ones where it feels like if you've been listening, you're kind of you're part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like they do a really good job of that, and they do some really great fan service. So I just wanted to shout those guys out, because it was not a funny thing that happened, but I was hysterical laughing.
Well, it is great, because if anyone's listening to this who hasn't got around to listening to our Endgame one yet,
you can listen to the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, if you haven't listened yet because you haven't seen Endgame, that's fine. I totally understand, because we do no spoiler free thing really, other than some fun nuggets in the beginning with Brian, our prodigal spin tune. But our intro music, as bad as it is, it's also perfect.
It's also the greatest thing that's ever happened. That's not true.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun to do, though. There were some laughing tears while we were making that. I was laughing pretty hard. I had a really good time with that. Awesome. So, all right, go ahead. Give us your last.
Okay, so my last thing is about Billions, which I've mentioned on this show a couple of times. I've mentioned to you more than a couple of times. I know you haven't got around to watching it yet, and you don't have to in order for this conversation.
Okay.
They've been doing. I think I mentioned it to you when I saw you the other day. Because I had meant to do this with our last full normal episode, and it just kind of got like sidetracked. So it's been a couple of episodes since then now, but it's fine. We can do it now. Billions has been doing something really interesting for a couple of seasons now that I've never quite seen. I'm not saying it's never happened before. It's just not on anything that I've watched that's been done in this exact way, where it's become a move for the show. And I was a little thrown by it at first, but the more I think about it, I actually like it. Especially as we talk about some of these shows, like especially the one that always comes to mind is the Marvel shows on Netflix, where they just ran too long.
Yeah.
Where they would have done better, like writing them to a certain length rather than forcing the narrative structure to fit on a length.
Write the story and let it end when it ends.
Yeah, say, well, we only wrote 9 episodes this season, but next season we wrote 11 episodes, like fine, whatever, like that's just what fits with the material we have. So what Billions has been doing is they're still sticking to their, 10 or 12 episodes or 13 episodes, I can't remember how many it is. But what they've done in at least the last 2 has been pretty, like, obvious that it's been done, is they carry through from the end of the season threads that will set up the next season, right? Okay. They pick up the next season and have that typical debut episode where we're kind of figuring out where everyone is exactly. It's not that long since the last thing. We remember we know the big thing, and then we'll see what the B and C storylines are going to be, right? But it's like kind of like that episode of like setting the table, right?
Yeah.
And then they run through the storyline, and the thing starts picking up steam, and it's becoming real. It's like, oh shit, man, how are they going to maintain this tension all season? And then hit the blowout valve, and the storyline ends, and it resets on a new story down the back half of the season. But it's not necessarily like, let's just call it for argument's sake, a 12-episode season. Yeah. It's not 6 and 6. Like last year, it was like 4 and 8, and this year it was like 5 and 7. And they're just saying, we've hit the end point of this story, so rather than drag it out, we're going to give you the good stuff, and then we're just going to do something new.
That's smart.
And it's like, it's not like it's like a wild jump. Like, you can see how the one story ending sets up the next part of it, but they're doing mini seasons, mini runs like the way that The Walking Dead does, but they're doing it all in one run. There's no 3-month hiatus between them.
Right.
It's in the whole batch of 10 or 12 episodes, however long it is. And they're just ripping along and doing their thing. It feels like there's like that pause. But the thing is, the one that comes back the next episode, it's not like a season premiere where it's totally table setting. There's a little bit of table setting for what's going to continue on, but the threads of that have already been carried in seamlessly, organically, where you don't need to reset the whole thing, and you've just seen it because you've been watching it for the last 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 episodes, however long it's been done. So they're doing these half seasons within a season and carrying some of the big pieces through the whole arc, but they're things that can develop and slow play, because you could spend 3 minutes on this episode and 10 minutes on it the next episode, and then 5 minutes because it gets pushed off to the side. Or maybe we don't see it at all for 2 episodes, and then it crops back up again, and it's like, oh, that thing that I thought was fairly insignificant is now much bigger prominence 2 episodes later.
Now, that feels like the evolution of TV, right?
Yes, feels like I agree.
That's like the right place to go with it, because generally, from what I understand, the way classic TV structure from like when we were kids through early adulthood, with the timing of the seasons, premieres and finales were big ticket items. They were meant to drive viewership. They were also guided towards advertisement, obviously, and things like that, which building up the pricing around those things, making a lot of money on those cap episodes. So in a world where no one gives a shit about the air date, except if they're afraid of spoilers, I think you have the freedom to do this. Yeah,
which, I mean, largely, the end of Game of Thrones will be the death of the monoculture, the death of the water cooler talk, right? You know what I mean? Where like everyone has to be on the same page. And we've been killing it off with DVR and streaming for a while now, but Game of Thrones is probably, and it's not to say that there never will be anything that takes over again, but it largely is the last thing.
Yeah.
Other than sports that will ever be the case with.
Sure.
So weep for it, but enjoy it for what it was. And I don't think everything has to be that anyway, but it was nice to have a couple of things like that, right?
Yeah.
But this will be the end of that era, essentially. And I don't see it ever really coming up. House of Cards had a moment where it felt like it was that, and then it lost it. And that was before the spacey stuff even.
It can't really be, because the nature of dropping an entire season in a day, you immediately negate this ability to carry this. What I do think they could do, I do think a Netflix type could episodically release something. I think that would actually be pretty cool to see. Maybe 1 or 2 different things. Maybe if it's a longer running thing, because generally people want it up front, and they're also used to it now. But you do have to wait for people to, like, oh, are we on the same page? Can we talk about this thing? Oh, no? Okay, maybe next week. Like, it's that part of it is kind of lame. Yeah. But I think it would be interesting if I would be curious to see if a premium service was doing that and how that would translate. Because obviously, that's basically what HBO is now, right? A lot of people watch Game of Thrones. Way more people watch Game of Thrones than have cable.
Yes.
And they stuck with the weekly release, and they did it on a video on demand service. I watch it on HBO Go. Like, I don't, and it's available to me Minute up. It's available to me 5 minutes before. That was interesting. Didn't expect that to be the case. But anyway, started it early.
Well, I think probably that's done to incentivize you to get the service, right?
Yeah, probably. But I don't know. It's pretty cool. So that's why I like that concept of. I think what they're doing with your show that you're talking about, Billions, they're opening up the door for, okay, if we are a premium service that is dropping a series that is not built on advertisement, we can make this as long or as short as we want to.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's take those off the table. Great. So now what do we want to do? Let's tell the story. Great. We start writing the story's being written, the story's feeling good. It feels like a really great time to deliver this amazing punchline or climax that we're trying to deliver. There's nothing holding them back now. And I think that's really cool.
Because we've seen that evolution, right? As you were saying, old school network television, right? Where it was like 24 episodes per season or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's nothing gets done over the course of a lot of the... And I hate those like serialized shows. I hate them. It's like old like the police procedurals and the doctor shows. All those shows are like that. And it's like, I can't get to a point where like that stasis. You know what I mean? Like it bores the shit out of me. I don't want to watch something where there's 12 seconds of character development or plot development in an episode. It's just not interesting to me. And if it is interesting to you, this isn't me like shitting on it. It just isn't for me. Mm-hmm. You can keep watching that and enjoy it. I don't begrudge you that. It's just I want something that I feel is more propulsive of both plot and character. But yeah, like I've felt the strain recently with like the Netflix shows, and there's been other shows too where it feels like, man, this season probably would have been better if it was 10 instead of 13 or something. Or this would have been better if it was 8 instead of 10. Yeah. And some shows have been, although I still don't think any network shows have been doing it, but HBO has done it some, right? Where, remember the Newsroom? It was 10 episodes the first season, it was 9 episodes the second season, I think it was 6 or 7 episodes the third season.
Is it even, it might be even less.
I forget. I want to say it was 6, but I'm not 100% sure.
Can we just pause for a second? What a tremendous series! I absolutely adore that series.
I'm gonna probably go back and watch it all.
Same.
Sometime. I've talked about it a couple times, and like each time that I've gotten to the point where I finished my show that I'm watching all of,
it's time.
Something else big has come up to me where it's like, oh, like I was watching The Wire, and then like I finished it, and I was like, maybe I'll watch that, and then something else came up, and I watched that, and then I was like, and then like they had The Sopranos, and then literally the day I finished The Sopranos, I saw Mad Men was on Netflix, and the creator was a writer on The Sopranos. It's like, it feels perfect for me to jump right into that world. That's
kind of a badge of honor, though, right? Like, in this world where, at our fingertips, we actually have this infinite, almost, like, seemingly, or maybe to our actual time, we have an infinite supply of very good stuff to watch.
Yeah.
The fact that I want to spend that time rewatching something.
By the way, I don't know about you, I've watched multiple times through.
I haven't. I've only seen it the one time through.
Except for the final season. I've only seen the final season once, but the first 2 seasons I've seen a couple times.
He doctored the tapes. He doctored the tapes. Doctored the motherfucking tapes. I love that show so much.
Just to put a bow on this whole thing, I think, just even seeing the beginning of that, like you said, let's just write 8 episodes this season. That's all we have, and that can be okay. And you still don't see it on network. It's premium cable because, you're not buying ad space, right? You don't have to worry about that sort of concern, and I think the structure of the contracts is different. Or also, the other thing is, you've noticed, especially with the Game of Thrones, it's only 6 episodes, but technically it's probably like 8 episodes worth of content, right?
Yeah.
Which, that's fine, whatever. It's still shorter than the typical run has been. But this is, like, if you're going to be stuck on, no, we want 13 episodes from you, find a different way to construct your narrative in a way that makes it interesting. Say, oh, this idea, we really like this idea, but we don't have a full season's worth of this. Okay, table that for a second. Let's come up with some other ideas. Oh, we really like this idea. We're almost out to a season. Perfect. Find a way to stitch those 2 things together into one cohesive season that'll be 2 mini seasons. They don't have to be equal. They don't have to be 50-50. It's okay if it's 60-40 or 75-25, you know what I mean?
It's 1 season, it's cut in half, it's 8 episodes apiece, and we're going to get Morgan playing pickup sticks for 3 episodes.
Guys, I've seen the future. I've seen the future, and the future is Billions. I love that show so much.
Your excitement for it is getting me excited for it, so. Eventually that'll probably be on I imagine that'll be on our
Yeah, we do them on different paces. Okay, I mean, yeah, you guys. I feel like you guys will probably tackle what we do in the shadows first.
Yeah, it's relatively low investment. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm all in. I don't know that Kim's going to be all in.
I thought that she'd be into that.
We'll have to see.
I mean, maybe not as much as you, but I could see her being into it. That's why I pitched it to you guys, because I genuinely thought that that's something she would enjoy.
It might be. We'll have to see. It's just it's over the top.
It is, but I also feel like I thought that she would appreciate the dry humor.
Yeah, we'll have to see when we watch the first episode together. The first episode was very funny. I enjoyed that immensely. Shall we get into our flick of the week?
Let's do it.
Hopeless dweeb Elliot Richards is granted 7 wishes by the devil to snare Allison, the girl of his dreams, in exchange for his soul. I'm of course speaking of the film Bedazzled, starring Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley, from the year 2000.
And this movie, as I said before, is very much from the...
It's aggressively 2000.
It is the most perfectly 2000 thing I've seen in a while.
This is one of those movies that I know it's not a great movie. I know it's not.
Challenge.
We both know it's not a great movie, but I love it. I love this movie. It's so silly. It's ridiculous. It does that 2000 vibe that you're talking about. Man, that brings me back, and I really like that. It's regurgitated concepts from over the years, but it's fine. I don't care. It's just fun to watch, and I think one of the things that I love the most about it is I've talked about this before on the show, and I'm sure I'll talk about it numerous more times. But there's when my birthday. My birthday's next week. My birthday is in May. Around my birthday, there's always a big movie. Always. It's great. I was born for the movies.
Yes, first week of May birthday is...
it's pretty dope.
Just outside of the first week of May's birthday is prime movie release time.
Yeah, it's on the cusp of May, of the first week of May. There's always something ridiculous, something awesome for me to see. Going back, I think every year for my birthday, when I want, like, my mom and dad would ask me like what I wanted to do with my friends and stuff, and I always wanted to go to movies. So 4 or 5 of us, we'd get together on like probably that Friday. We'd go to the movies, see something that I specifically wanted to go see. Yeah. And there's a number of these over the years. Obviously, I've been around here for a bit. So every year something great would come out. So let me rattle off some off the top of my head that I remember.
Well, just one quick pause. For a moment I was like, wait a minute, you didn't fucking go to see this movie, did you? And I just saw that it came out in October of 2000. So
no,
I answered my own question.
No,
jeez.
No. So a lot of those movies were things like Wild Wild West, The Mummy.
Okay.
Like that style movie, that time frame. That's what I'm talking about. So like,
yeah.
Now, when I saw The Mummy, this is a love letter to The Mummy. When I saw The Mummy, I was blown away. I thought that movie is fantastic. I had so much fun with it. It's super entertaining. The characters are fantastically written. The comedy is on point. It's basically there's no national treasure without The Mummy.
That's probably fair,
right? Like that's generally how I feel, because I feel like it established that style. There's no The Mummy without Indiana Jones, but.
Well, that's the thing is, I feel like a lot of people would be like, oh, like, National Treasure is like a knockoff of Indiana Jones. It's like, yeah, but by way of The Mummy. Like,
by way of The Mummy, exactly. And I love that movie so much, and that was my introduction to Brendan Fraser.
No, sorry. George of the Jungle was my introduction.
Oh, sorry, I stand corrected. George of the Jungle and Dudley Do-Right. Anyway, there was one of the earliest memories I have of him. And when this movie came out, I was like, I like that guy. And this was at the time where I'm at this age getting into all of these movies and like identifying things that I love about movies. I like this actor. I don't like this actor. I like this type of story. I don't like this type of story. And when I saw him, I was like, oh, I want to see this. And as a kid watching this movie, I had a blast. I was hysterical. The movie is very funny. It's very dumb, but it's very funny.
Well, the thing is, there is a lot of dumb, but sneakily underneath that, infiltrating between all the dumb, there's some smart shit in here too.
Yeah, there. You know what's funny? They could have easily made this a TV show where each episode was some ridiculous wish.
This would work great as a limited series.
Right, which at the time was not really, I feel like, as big of a thing as it could have been.
No, before a limited series, it was just bad TV movies that sometimes were a 2-part TV movie.
Right. So, but this movie, it's so silly. It's got, it's just a, you know, I mentioned, I read the plot points earlier. Dweeb dances with the devil and gets 7 wishes. And every wish, you know what's amazing to me about this movie? Every wish, obviously, goes wrong, right? He's going to make a wish. He's going to want a thing. He tries to get that thing. He gets it in the literal sense, and there's usually some gigantic caveat that comes with it. Some absurd...
Well, that's the best part about it is it's not just an oversight. It is just how, like, sneakily pernicious and horrifyingly, like, devious thing that she's done underneath what his heart's desire.
Right. So pausing there for 1 second. This movie came out in 2000, and I immediately need to talk about a spoiler piece. So I'm going to get into it right now. This movie's good. Go see it. It's fun. If you just
you said like, oh no, it's not a great movie, and yeah, okay, fine, it's not a great movie. This isn't even a good bad movie. This is a legitimately good movie.
Oh, it's a good movie. It's good. It's not great.
Not great, but it is legitimately good.
Yeah, it's very entertaining. So if you haven't seen it, it's worth a watch. Definitely a great. I don't know what to watch. I'm kind of edging out on the couch. I'm tired. I kind of want to put something on. I could maybe go for a couple chuckles.
It's a tight 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's quick. It's a quick run. So what we're talking about with him making these wishes, getting the literal meaning, and then it backfiring tremendously. Let's just immediately dive into him as a basketball player, because that's the first time. So he's had it build up a couple times now, where he knows, or he should know at this point, that something horribly wrong is going to go on in this new fantasy world that he lives in. So he becomes this very sweaty, very tall basketball player. The sweat pouring off of him is phenomenal.
And pouring slowly onto the newscast.
Just spraying the newscaster is amazing. But when you're wondering where's this going to go, and he's super tall, and he has to be tall. Why did he have to be tall? I don't remember what happened in the previous one that he asked to be tall.
Well, the funny thing is Brendan Fraser asking to be tall is funny because as far as like actual actors go, he's a pretty tall dude. Mm-hmm. He's a big guy. Also, I feel like his body composition changed throughout the course of the movie because he looks super skinny in those opening scenes.
Yeah.
And then he looks more like normal Brendan Fraser the rest of the movie, which is like, it's not like he's fat, but like he's like a husky dude, and he was well built back then. He was a muscular dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was like he looked like emaciated in the opening sequence.
So when he asks to be, he wants to love what he does. He wants to be rich.
The thing with the tall thing was he says that was the one after they were on the beach.
Okay, so he wanted to be like kind of a tough guy. He wanted to love what he did. He wanted to have money, and I think that was the gist of the wish.
Yeah, all of these wishes. He says I want to be athletic.
Yeah,
I want to love what I do. I want to be tall and strong, and I want to have money. Right. And I want to be loved. He goes because that was he goes. I want people to. He goes. I want to like what I do, and I want people to like me for what I do.
Yeah. So he becomes this absurd basketball player who gives 110%, which I think was a great thing. Is that he has this canned response for the reporter, and then when he's nervous later, he's giving the same canned response. Really verbatim. And the Allison, when he finally meets Allison in this version of his life, she's a reporter and she wants to do a story on him, and she's being very forward, flirting with him, wanting to see how big his penis is.
Also, I love how like there's a call and response to that whole sequence where she says, a player like you who's got such a massive talent,
right?
And then she has another line like right after.
Well, you just got to give 110%.
And she says something else about like, oh, it must be hard with such a big ego.
Yep. It's so good.
And then when you get the reveal,
Right, so you already know as the viewer where this one's going to go wrong, and he takes his towel off, and this is the key. He has a number of amazing deliveries in this movie. This is one of them where he just opens the towel and goes, "No!"
And he keeps doing it. No! What? Come on!
And then she leaves because she has a big story with the NFL.
Yeah, well, that's true. But there was the call and response aspect. She goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot I had this thing." And she goes, "What? It's just this
teeny
tiny little thing I have to write."
What's teeny? Oh yeah, and then you get the sense that he's also very dumb in this one.
Yes.
And that really comes to at the very end of it when he has
What's
the pager.
The number?
Yeah, he has the pager so that he can get back to the devil. The number to dial on the pager is 666, and he starts off 333. Ah! 444. Ah! And then he turns and he looks and he rips a post-it note that he has on.
Which there's about 10 of them over his locker.
And he rips it off and he types in 999. Come on! Flips it over. Duh. I think all of the transitions from his fantasy world back to reality via the pager, those are all very funny.
Yes.
Now, to backtrack...
One where he's falling off the helicopter, like...
The helicopter, yeah. Because the Colombian drug lord might be my favorite.
It's the one that they give the most time to.
Yeah.
This is the first one.
Yeah, and then they were like, oh, well, the movie can't be more than an hour and a half, so we're going to have to breeze through the next few.
Also, if they had to pick one that was going to be the shortest, the one where he is Abraham Lincoln...
Oh, that was good.
Perfect. Because I want to be the president. Yeah, because I want to do something good. With my last remaining wishes, I want to do something good. I want to be someone important, someone who does good things. I want to be the president, and he's Abraham Lincoln. What? We're gonna go see a play. I think I've already seen this play.
Yeah, it's
I'm sure you haven't. It's called My American Cousin. I know how this one ends. And then someone's standing behind him with a bottle of champagne and pops the champagne and he's jumping.
Yeah, that look of fear that he turns really quickly. Oh my god, so funny. The what I love is in that one when John Wilkes Booth aims the gun at him. He goes, wait, and he types the number and he goes, all right.
He goes, yeah, do your thing, or let's get it over with or something.
Oh my god.
And that one only lasts about 3 minutes, and that was the perfect amount of time for that one, whereas the Colombian drug lord one lasts like 10 minutes.
Yeah, in the Colombian drug lord reality, he asked to be rich and married to Allison.
Yes.
That was pretty much it.
Yeah, he goes.
Respected.
He goes, I want to be rich, powerful, respected, and I want to be married to Allison, and that's all he says.
Right, and he didn't specify love at all. Or that she loves him, so anyway, falls into this world. The best thing about this, first off, this is the first one you get. So when he wakes up and he's freaking out because like, oh my god, this wish came true. That's great. But when he realizes that he can speak Spanish, it's one of my favorite scenes in comedy.
Oh, it's strong.
it's so silly. And then this is also, we get introduced to his friends who are actually all his friends from work. Well, all his
friends.
Not friends from work that are really just shitty to him. They make appearances in each of these lives that he has with these dreams, with these wishes that he got from the devil, and they all play these absurd characters.
It's great too because like it's Orlando Jones in the middle of having a moment, right? Because like in quick succession, he had the Replacements, he had Evolution, like Bang Bang Bang, like he was in Office Space bit part, right? Like. He was in, like, everything that was good comedically, like, in, like, that, 3-year span.
I used to work at Innitrode.
Yeah. And the thing is, I remember him being in it. I've seen this movie all the way through before this one time. And it was, like, a year or two after it came out, like, whenever it was on, like, HBO or something in, like, 2001 or 2002. I saw it, like, after having, like when you were like a kid and you like watched a movie on like a weekend with like your family,
yeah,
and then like you fall asleep and then you wake back up and then you're watching whatever's on TV like while half asleep. I watched this whole movie like that at like 1 a.m. sometime,
nice.
And that's the only time I've seen the movie all the way through. And I've seen bits of it a couple other times, but like very small snippets of it. So I remember Orlando Jones being in it, who I didn't know at the time that I recognize now. The credits were rolling, and it's a very long credit sequence, which an entertaining one too. Is they have all the different like sins of everyone around the world.
Yes,
kind of
so
cool.
clever. I have pause on that for a second. I have a few of them written here.
Oh, nice.
So they show the opening sequence is like an overview of people. It's just like stock footage basically, but over the stock footage they pinpoint each person and they boil them down to one character trait, and it's a
they're
flaw
like
or
speeding
a good
up and like slowing it down too, and like they're showing like people like moving past them was like stop motion. Like
yeah. So like one of my favorites is it's 3 monks, and one of them's head is down, and the other 2 are like in the middle of like rising from a bow, and over each of their head there's a blurb. One of them says praying, the other one says praying, and the one with his head on the ground says sleeping.
Yes,
I love that one. Then that immediately cuts to a kid in like a baby carrier on a woman's got the kid like in the pouch thing on the front, and it just says freeloader over the kid's head, which I think is fantastic. And probably my favorite one is a woman throws garbage into the garbage can. It misses and hits the floor, and it just says environmentalist above her.
Yes,
It's so ridiculous. And then obviously they just do one after the other, and I think it's lonely, desperate, eager to please, lovesick. And then he holds the door for some person, and then 12 other people walk through the door, and it just says doormat.
not just 12. They speed the thing up even more.
That was pretty
500
fun.
people walk in the door while he's holding it open.
Oh my god.
But getting back, so as the credits scroll is going on, right? Brendan Fraser, Elizabeth Hurley, Orlando Jones, and a name comes up, and it's Toby Huss, and I was like, that name's familiar, and I can't place why. So it gets into the opening like sequence of the movie, and I'm like, oh my god, I know who that guy is. He was in *Halt and Catch Fire*. I don't think you ever watched it.
No, but I know which actor you're talking about.
And he plays like a Texan, like old school guy who like is kind of a hard ass earlier in the show, and he develops into kind of having a heart of gold. It's like, oh my god, this is like, how the fuck is that guy in this movie? And like I have like no idea this and that. I'm watching it, and him, like I'll get to it like later when we get, but like he is probably the best. And all 3 of those guys who were like his friends, right, who were always in the background of it, like Orlando Jones, they give him a couple of moments to shine, right? They give Tobias one particular one, but all 3 of them are really good. And the Colombian one is the one where all 3 of them are always together. Yeah, because they're like the news team in Anchorman, where they're always like behind him, and like one of them's always got a line or something like that, or it's always we're panning to them for the reaction shot and all that stuff.
They do that in the scene where they're at the stables, or the factory.
The establos, my establos.
When they're at the factory where they make the cocaine. And he doesn't understand like why, like what's the problem? Why are we all like arguing or upset over this?
Who cares about half a kilogram
flour or sugar
or sugar?
Cocaine? So good. And then while
oh my god, I'm a drug lord. Of course I am.
Yeah. Well, and while this shit is going down, Orlando Jones just takes a big whiff of cocaine, which is so great. He pulls his head up. And he's just got white all over his face. So
and they're telling him silently to wipe his face because he's white all over his mustache. And they all have the exact same mustache.
When he finds out, when Elliot finds out that Allison is cheating on him because they're married, not in love.
With Raoul?
With Raoul. He's so angry, he pulls his mustache and he rips it clean off. Oh my god.
And you can see the patch of skin underneath it where
horrible.
It's like about to be bleeding. And then in the next scene when he goes to talk to Allison, he's got a Band-Aid across, like, spanning the pieces of mustache that no longer united.
So stupid. I love it. I love it.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying for how dumb it is. There's a lot of smart shit quietly going on in the background. Like having the mustache come off and then having the bandage, like, fixing the one spot of mustache that's missing.
It's great. And then what's really funny about the Colombian one is when he, at the end of it, when he's on the helicopter flying away, and he drops the pager and then dives after it. Now, this is the first one. He doesn't know exactly what's going to happen when he hits the button. I find that to be funny. But he gets, obviously, he pulls out of it and lands directly on the hood of a car. That was a little slapstick, and I appreciate it. I like the first wish, which you find out counted, of the Big Mac.
Yes. Which also, complete bullshit. Considering, I mean, it filtered in with the whole thing. Like, I'm supposed to believe you. I could have jumped on a bus and bought myself a thing. I didn't even get fries.
Yeah,
that
was.
Although I do love how they back that up with where like you should have turned and run because they get to her club.
Yeah.
And everyone there knows her and knows him rather. And it's like paparazzi taking pictures. He gets in and girls competing for his affection. Everyone knows his name. You know, come dance with me. No. Come dance with me, Elliot.
They get to her club, which I believe is located somewhere in Gotham in the mid-90s. It's straight out of Batman Forever, like a club scene in Batman Forever. Which,
the interior of the club, absolutely.
Yeah, it's the turn. It's the turn from the 90s into the 2000s.
Yes,
it's happening in that scene. Which
is funny because Batman Forever found a way to like combine both the 1930s and 1995.
It's like acid.
That's such a bad line.
I know. That's my hearing aid. We'll do that movie eventually.
I still claim that it's underrated.
It is. It is absolutely underrated. I love that movie.
But also, while we're on the topic of him going to the club, I love when he gets arrested later and he's talking to the cop and he's reading back. So let me get this straight: you sold your soul to the devil, like blah blah blah. This club that she took you to. Why? And you won't take us there? He goes, it's not that I can't. I don't know how to get there. Sure. He goes, because he says some line. He goes, she drove. He goes, right, in her Lamborghini Diablo. And there's a lot of good, like subtle, like devil jokes, like stuff like that. Like she's wearing the shirt that says "bad" on it. The license plate on the Lamborghini Diablo says "bad 1." You know, there's all those little things floating around. Like there's like poster. There was a Garden of Eden oil painting in the back of her office in the club. Like all that sort of shit. Like it was good stuff.
It is great. Backtracking like earlier on into the movie though, when he meets her and she's telling him who she is, and obviously doesn't believe her, and he thinks she's crazy. This is I didn't know about it then. I probably didn't know about it the last time. I have not been familiar with the term Scientology until maybe the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years when it's been like a thing.
I was aware of it before that, because the funny thing is I guess that's really the moment that it all really picked up in like.
I guess awareness. So. Right.
Because, and I didn't remember that line because, like I said, I've really only seen it all the way through one time, and I was like, that's a funny line. But at that exact same time. And I didn't know about it at the time. You remember that movie Battlefield Earth?
Yeah.
With John Travolta? I think that also came out in 2000. And that was, I think, not terribly long after he converted to Scientology. Okay. And that movie, I guess, is a loose allegory for what Scientology is all about.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. It's been a very long time and I don't really know.
Stuff with, like, the big picture arcane stuff that's in the background of Scientology. Okay. I didn't know it when it was the time. I saw it and like I thought some of the action stuff was cool, but even I knew it was a bad movie when it came out. I just didn't realize, I didn't understand the gravity of how bad it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like 2000 must have kind of been the turning point where like it became like a big thing where like people actually knew what it was.
Right, and so that line comes in like enjoy your Scientology or something like that, and I was just like, like when I was watching the other night, I was like, oh wow, like I feel like I clearly remember a time before I knew anything about it or knew what it was, and this is a long time ago that I saw this movie, so that sometimes it's shocking to see that happen, or like. You know, you just go back and you're more aware of things now than you were then. Because obviously, I was a kid when I saw this.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a thing for like
since the '54, I think,
something like that. Yeah,
yeah. I had looked it up because I was curious.
Yeah, well, I don't know the very beginnings of it. L. Ron Hubbard did whatever in like the '50s or something like that, and then it started becoming I guess something approaching a more cohesive. Dogma, like sometime 10 years later, maybe after he was like banished from the U.S. or something. I'm still unclear about that whole story.
So, moving on from Scientology and the Colombian drug lord, the next sequence we get is when he's just the most sensitive man in the world. He asks to be the most sensitive man in the world. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, because they went into her. they transported themselves into her apartment, read her diary.
Oh,
right. Whole narrative about how, why can't I find a sensitive man who cares about his feelings and is open about his feelings as I am, and this and that. And he says, I want to be the most sensitive man in the world, and I want her to love me.
Yep, which is key, which is great. But backtracking again, in that scene when they're in her bedroom, and
she walks through him.
She walks through him. That's great. But he's similar to the scream when he opens his towel when he's the basketball player. In this scene, when she can't see him, right? So he's sitting in the chair and she's right in front of him. She puts her foot on the chair and she's painting her toenails. And she stands up straight, and she fixes her towel. And to fix her towel, she fully opens it, and he goes, "Oh!" And then she closes it, and it's just a great reaction. It's so perfect because he cracks me up in this movie like a lot, and so much so in this sequence where he is the most sensitive man in the world.
He's a good comedic actor.
Yeah,
I mean, from like 95, 96 to like 2003, he was as big a star as anyone. I mean, it's a shame, like, he fell off the map pretty quickly after that, it feels like. I mean, like, he was a really big deal in the late 90s and early 2000s. The Mummy franchise, was it Encino Man? Was that the other one?
Oh my god, Encino Man. So
Bedazzled. Was it Blast from the Past? I saw a lot of that movie. I didn't see the whole thing, and Alicia Silverstone was as big as anyone in the 90s. The two of them together, like, that was like a big time pairing. He did a run on Scrubs, like all this stuff, like. So funny. And then it's funny because he kind of disappeared off the last thing I remember him being in, where it was like, oh, Brendan Fraser is gonna be in a movie, other than the Mummy 3, which was a tough run, but he did, was it the Looney Tunes movie or something like that?
Looney Tunes Back in Action.
Yeah, like that was like the last big thing where like Looney Tunes mattered, like post Space Jam.
Come on,
like that was like a. I'm sorry. It was a big deal that they were doing a Looney Tunes movie. It was a big deal that Brendan Fraser was gonna be in it, right? And like after that, he just like disappeared. And it was only when he kind of made his comeback, and like he was in Crash in 2004, like Oscar-winning movie, like all that stuff. And then when he I guess he just kind of resurfaced a couple years ago with that the Getty show, Trust. On FX, was it a year or two ago, and he kind of started talking again. He's like, yeah, like, I've been at it for a while. I didn't realize, I mean, it sounds like he had a lot of stuff that went on. I think he has a special needs son that has like taken up a lot of his time, and he started like a foundation around that and stuff like that.
Oh, awesome.
He went through a bad divorce, but the biggest thing was he used to do all his own stunts, and I'm watching that scene with him falling out of the helicopter and then landing on the car, right? He's a big dude.
Yeah.
His body fell apart on him.
Oh, damn.
Like, he went through, like, years of, like, I think depression because he was going through surgery after surgery, and, with that comes, the surgeries on their own take their toll, and, he hurt his back, and there may have been some sort of substance thing in all of that, where, when, you do a lot of surgeries, you get on, like, these fucking, blanking on the name of that sort of drug, but you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Through that whole thing, like, that was as big a part of anything. Is like, he used to love doing his own stunts, and it's like, a guy like Tom Cruise, who's like shorter than your sister, can like survive falling down all the time. The guy's like 6 feet tall, and he's probably 230 pounds, 240 pounds. Takes a toll on your body.
I vaguely remember hearing something about him being in pain and like going through stuff.
It's a shame because like this guy is a legitimately solid actor. This is all kind of a long-winded way of saying that, but his comedic timing is strong. Like, and he can do, like, he plays multiple different characters in this movie, versions of himself. The first 10 minutes of the movie, if I didn't know that I had to get through all of it and that I genuinely enjoyed where it goes, I forgot how
it's hard,
viscerally painful to watch the first few minutes of the movie.
He's impossibly awkward in the early stages of the movie.
Yes, like, in a way that I didn't think was possible.
Right, and also in a way that I didn't think he was going to be recoverable.
No.
But it is as the movie goes on.
It's the type of thing that if I was watching it for the first time now, I might not have gotten through that.
Right.
If I didn't have a reason
that's
to.
Totally fair. The getting into Sensitive Guy, the red hair and the freckles that they add to him that don't look natural on him makes it very funny. And the best part is that he gets lost for an hour because he was crying at the sunset.
I think so, something like that.
And then continues to cry at the sunset or get choked up by it every, 30 seconds throughout this thing. The most amazing...
The line that I had in the intro.
Yeah.
This thing ever said.
That's amazing. I think it would be easy to say that the most amazing part of that scene is when he's playing the song about the tuna. Oh, sorry, the dolphins.
The dolphins.
That would be the easy thing to choose. But the best scene is when the guy kicks the sand in his face and he has a gallon of sand in his mouth and he continues to spit it out.
Yeah, it takes him like three or four spits to get all of the sand out of his mouth.
It's so great. And then when she leaves with the guy because he's too sensitive, and then he just turns to the sun and just goes,
well, he gets up and he's crying, and then he turns and looks at it as he's putting the number in the pager, looks at the sun again, and then it renews his scream.
So good. So silly. So, now remind me, he gets back from that, now the basketball player's next, right?
Yes, because
we talked about
they were the dumb jocks, they were playing football.
Right, but there's one thing that we forgot to mention, and that was after he looked at the towel, and he goes, damn it! He goes, damn the devil! Damn the devil to hell!
Yeah.
Which is just a great line.
Also in there, as I was mentioning, each of really it was Toby Huss and Orlando Jones each got a moment to shine. Well, actually, I guess the beach one was where Paul Adelstein gets his chance to shine, right? Because he's the one who actually gets Allison, right? He's kicking the sand in his face.
Yeah.
But I'm not as familiar with him as an actor. But Orlando Jones as the retired sportscaster,
so good,
doing the play-by-play. He fucking nails it. He crushes. I know you're not a big sports fan. I know you've seen some.
It's funny. I'm not a big sports fan, but I am a big fan of people making fun of sportscasters, like on SNL. So
yes,
this is great.
He is perfect as the retired ex-athlete who is only on the table because he used to play the sport, not because he's any good at broadcasting.
Right.
Incredible.
It's so funny. They have like a little bickering moment, the two of them. And I don't remember what it's exactly about, but it is very
funny. Yeah, the two of them are perfect in conjunction in those roles, but specifically Orlando Jones capturing the retired ex-player who, why is he doing this? Because he's not any good at it. He may know the game, but he's horrendous at explaining it to you. Right. He was perfect.
Okay, so now after the basketball sequence, so what's the next?
There was one.
Is it the publisher?
The next one is when he's really smart. Because that was the whole thing. Is you said he's super dumb in this.
Yeah.
He goes the opposite direction. I want to be really smart.
I want people to love me. I want to be articulate. I want to be intelligent. I want to be strong. He wants to have. I want to have a big.
Not cartoonish.
Yeah, that was great.
And he does the thing with the fist, and then she does it too.
Now, what's funny is that immediately after he enters the screen as this new character, he has to fix himself. Because he doesn't know what to do. And I don't know that I've picked up on that before.
Oh, yeah, he has to adjust himself, and it's down at the...
It's down by his knee. Yeah, which is amazing. But that's where the line came from, where he's talking to... Orlando Jones goes...
Yes.
So they introduce him. They're like, "Is it true you've written your 4th book in 3 years?" And he goes, "I hear it's already up for a Pulitzer, and it hasn't even been published." And he goes, and that's where the line said, "Oh, nonsense, Dr. McGiggity Giggity Baba."
Yeah.
What? Was that improv? I want to know more about that line. And it
had to have been. I'm gonna say it must have been because I'm looking at the IMDb page right now. And it just says African party guest. His name isn't on there.
Right. Oh my god. It's so ridiculous. Now, this brings me to one of the funniest deliveries in the movie. I love a good shouting at a good timing and delivery of a line. When he brings Alice into the bedroom, and his boyfriend or husband is in the bedroom, and he doesn't realize at this point that he's gay.
Again, Toby Huss.
Yep.
Incredible. I like seeing him in that with the flowing hair when he's quite balding in *Halt and Catch Fire*. It's ridiculous.
when he goes, "You're gay," and he goes, "I'm not gay, I'm straight," and then he goes, "And I'm Tony Danza." It's just
you're straight and I'm Tony Danza.
It's such a great line. It's really not relevant. It doesn't make any sense. It's just the delivery.
Yeah,
it's just very silly.
He's a good actor.
Oh my god, it's so funny. And then I'll prove it to you. And he dips Allison and he gives her this gratuitous kiss. And then he picks her back up and he's like, "Yep, I'm gay."
And they shake hands.
Yeah,
they shake hands. It was lovely to meet you.
That was too much. And now is that the last one? Oh no, then the president.
Then the Lincoln one.
Then that's it. That's the finale. That's all the runs we get. And then he wishes Allison has a good life. And then that like breaks his contract. And then he's fine. The movie kind of peters off at the end, but it's fine.
Well, it was nice because it got to the whole emotional messaging part of it. And I will say, considering the close proximity in the years that they came out and their relative comedic prowess and importance in the Hollywood industry, and the fact that we were just talking about them a little while ago, this movie is somehow less cheesy and delivering and more effective in delivering the message than Bruce Almighty did with Jim Carrey.
Mm.
Even though it's intentionally ridiculous and cheesy at times, somehow comes off as slightly less cheesy than that one did.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just because it was more of an example of walking, showing the way that you walk close to the line and realizing how dangerous that is type of thing. And also, I think the other part of it is they really force Jim Carrey to carry the whole thing in Bruce Almighty, as opposed to in this one, he
had like an entourage, and he had
Well, not just that, but it's built on the back of the relationship between him and Elizabeth Hurley,
which is really sweet. Yeah,
and the two of them have really good chemistry in those respective roles.
You're right. They do. They play off each other really well in this movie.
They do. And the best part about it is the two of them, and you never really see something like this. The two of them trade the role of like straight man and comedic relief.
Mm-hmm.
Like back and forth depending on the segment, and even sometimes within it, right? Where like that sort of seamless handoff, usually it's you're the straight man, you're the comedic relief, and that's how it's going to be. And you're going to tee up the joke, and you're going to trigger it, and this and that. The two of them pass the baton back and forth seamlessly. They're really good together.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where obviously chemistry seemed like it was a big deal there. Like it seemed like it worked really well. The characters seemed to jive really well. I would also say they genuinely seem like they're having a good time making it.
Yes, and especially him when he's doing the different wish rolls.
Oh yeah,
he is having the time of his life.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a fun movie to watch. I enjoy it. It's just so silly.
And I thought she did a really good job of balancing the comedy aspect and like the seduction aspect of the devil, like the whole point of the devil being seducing of you, sometimes literally in the case of her. She shows up in the red dress, or she's got the skin tight pants, or whatever, and literally getting up and being seductive. The weirdest of them all when she's playing the cop who's got him slammed up against the iron bars, and she's like nibbling on his ear and like whispering breathily into his ear, and it's like that must have been a tough scene to shoot for him.
Right. Oh my god. Anyway, that it's just a blast. It's a fun movie to watch. It's really entertaining, and it's always going to hold a special place in my heart.
I had one other line that I got, and I don't even have the exact line, but you'll remember exactly what I'm talking about. Where just because there's a bunch of I can't remember all of them, but there were so many good little lines in the background of this. One that got me pretty good though was when he's the drug lord and he finds about Raoul's betrayal, and they give him this photo album of Raoul and Allison together. Oh my
god!
And he says, he goes, "What?" And he goes to hand it back to me. He goes, "You can keep it. I got doubles." He goes, "Doubles." And I think that's the moment he rips his mustache off.
And all of that being in Spanish and his delivery in Spanish is very funny.
Yeah.
Plus, it's just so good. Or that why? And he says, "I got doubles," and the other two guys just shake their head. They're like, That's all I have.
Yeah, the only other tiny little note is I like that they do the whole thing where like subtly God is the guy who's in the cell with him, and they could have even left you walk away with like, oh, like was it actually him or not, whatever. But then when he finally finds the girl he actually earned, who also is played by the woman who played Allison, and they're walking down the street, the devil and God are playing chess together.
Yep.
But the two of them bond over seeing them happy together, or like where she genuinely likes him and she ends up respecting him for making the choice he made or whatever. But like she gives, oh, I really do like you, Elliot. You know, stick with me. And it's like, okay, you know, he's the devil. Like she's like, but like after he's free and clear, right? She goes, I really did like you. It's like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like you're actually giving a little bit of humanity to this relationship
to
is kind of
the
funny.
Devil.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I like that a lot. It's just
that's it for me.
Such a fun movie. That's all for this week's episode of Flix in the Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to discuss or nuggets for us to chat about, you can send those requests to flixinthe6@spintune.com or tweet us at thespintune with the hashtag FLI6. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
And I'm Al Bielsi.
Thanks for coming out. You're so much more than a fish to me, my playful friend beneath the sea.